There we go. We got you on here. Hi, Jennifer.
Hola.
My good, lovely, amazing, hilarious, beautiful, tenacious, loyal friend, Jennifer Vigil. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate you agreeing
Happy to
to
do it.
step way out of your comfort zone, I'm sure, to do because you're like, you're the champion of people. You
Oh,
are the person that's like cheering everybody on. And here I am, like, asking you about you, which is weird, I admit. It's kind of strange. So, um, you know, I think I don't know if you've had a chance to listen to the other podcasts or not. I know I've talked to you about them a lot because you were somebody that really encouraged me to just go for it and do it.
yeah.
And so, the big idea here is that I'm just trying to kind of document women that I know, and I'm sure this will eventually probably go to even some women. I've had women, um, give me recommendations for people who I should talk to, so it's
Cool.
probably end up, I'll talk to some women I don't really know that well. But so far it's me just trying to document, women that I know, um, that are like gritty, tough sort of women, just like living their lives. And I just kind of want to document like their stories and
Cool idea. It's really, I'm glad that you have moved forward with it because it really is a cool idea.
yeah. And like I said, if anything, it's been so good for me. And I just get so excited and to talk to people that I talk to. And then, every time I'm kind of done with one of these and I listen to it and I'll listen to it a few times and I'll kind of go back and I don't really edit them a ton, but like if there's something that's in there that you're like, maybe I should have said that different or whatever, we can cut pieces out or do
Oh,
whatever we
that's
need to do
really
that
good
way.
because like usually I'll wake up in the middle of the night and be like, oh, I should have said that.
Yeah. And I was like, we
Dang
can
it.
always do a part two or we can add on or whatever we need to do. Yeah, because I want everybody comfortable with what, I want them to feel comfortable, and I appreciate that you have trust in me to do this,
Oh,
you
for
know.
sure. Yeah. No, I think it's
So
a cool idea. And I think you're probably going to uncover some real, like really cool treasures in your conversations with people. So I
yeah.
support you 100%.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and I already have. And yeah, and so I'm sure we'll find some little gems in here with you today too.
Good deal.
So I kind of gave you like the assignment, I guess you could call it.
Sure.
What's your story, Ms. Vigil?
Well, that is a very broad question. What is my
Yes.
story? I feel like I have lots of stories, um, that fit together. When you were first talking about doing a podcast, something I am a firm believer that you'll get an inkling like that, something like that will be placed upon your heart. And it's placed upon your heart because you are the one who's meant to do it. And so there's always going to be, you'll have naysayers no matter what you decide you're going to do. And there's always the people that tell you, oh, you can't, or you shouldn't, or that's not for you, or, try to dissuade you one way or another. But for me, I guess what I've learned over the years is that's more confirmation for myself that I should do it because it was placed on my heart. And the people telling you that those things, you shouldn't or you can't, that's for them. That notion of I can't is for them. It's not for me. Because yes, I can, and I have a lot of times over and over when
Yeah.
things were, odds were seemingly stacked against me, or I just didn't know from the get-go. Sometimes not knowing is your biggest blessing because you just move forward in what makes sense to you at the time, and nobody um don't listen to the people who tell you you can't do something or you shouldn't or it's too big for you. Anybody who tries to dim your light needs to be removed. And those are some lessons I've had to learn over the years. Some of them really painfully, but as I look back, it's all for the best. Um, and I've been able to accomplish a lot of really cool things that had I listened to those people, I would not have done. I would have stayed small for their sake, not because of what was impressed upon my heart or what was placed there for me. If it's placed upon your heart, you're going to find a way to do it, as long as you accept the challenge. And so I'll say that's something that I believe firmly, and that's kind of been the starting point of a lot of really cool things for me. In terms of, I've worked in healthcare for 27, almost 28 years now. And I've played music professionally for 18 years now or something, 18 or 20 years, something like that. And certainly biting off more than I can chew has been a good thing. But in both of those cases, not only has it benefited myself and my family, it's been able to benefit my community at large. So I wouldn't change a thing about it. Even all the struggles and what came with it, I wouldn't change anything, because I definitely learned along the way.
Yeah, for sure. And that's been something that like being your friend and kind of being in your corner, and having you in
Always.
my corner
Yeah.
is like, it's just been such a wonderful experience. I mean, I've known you since we were in middle school, right? Junior high,
Yep.
seventh
Seventh
grade, 12
grade.
years old, something like that.
Yeah.
And we always we paralleled whatever, but it wasn't until the last few years that we got to be really close, and our trip to Mexico was so much fun.
Right. We have a
But
lot
I
in
mean,
common. We're
oh God,
similar in a lot of ways.
oh yeah, I just love how we just can be like ourselves with each other so much, that's
Yeah.
like we joke around about, like, yeah, let's just be weird. I really I need to spend some time with you and just get weird, like,
Yeah.
just be our
We need
weird
weird
little,
time.
say our little weird things that we say
No,
too, and then we think we're hilarious.
I
But
feel
I
like
always,
we have a common scrappiness to us.
yeah.
I grew up on a farm. I know you have been around horses and animals your whole life. Um, and I just, for a couple of girls from the West Plains, we that we're no strangers to hard work. We do love our sparkles, and we do love our glam and our big hair, but we're no strangers to hard work.
Yeah.
The work's got to get done. And I feel like we both take initiative, and we both kind of see A to B and don't take a lot of excuses getting there. So, um, it would make sense that we would be friends. All of those things line up.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So talk about that if you don't mind. I want to hear about your childhood on the farm, and I know you're from
Okay.
a big family, and I'm curious to hear how you think that that's shaped you, because
Sure.
there's no way being, like are you the youngest or close to the
No, I'm
youngest?
I'm second to the youngest.
Okay.
I have one younger brother. So you want me to talk about growing up West Plains style, right?
Yeah, West
Okay.
Plains girls.
So I was born and raised just west of Spokane, Washington, technically in the Cheney School District, out in the sticks, as we like to say. From what I understand, my birth was difficult for myself and for my mother. So I came into this world fighting. Um, I spent my first birthday in the hospital. I went back to Sacred Heart. For my first birthday, I had spinal meningitis. And as my mom tells the story, there I was one of like 10 or 12 kids in there. There was an outbreak. And my parents live at the end of a long dirt road. And so we were snowed in. They had to walk to the top of that road, which is about maybe 3 city blocks, to get to the top of the road so their friends could come and pick us up and take us to the hospital to get me there. So I guess out of those out of those 10 or 12 kids, whatever, there were 3 of us who made it out. One was blind and one was deaf, and then there was me. So again, early in life, whatever forces were meant to take me out were not successful. Um, and I think that was the very beginning of the stuff we were talking about before, like just being scrappy with stuff and
Mhm.
never giving up on things and knowing there's a purpose and a reason. So I'm the 10th of 11 kids. I have one younger sibling. And anybody that knows me knows that I talk about him. And, he was the first human that I've ever considered to be my first favorite person. So I have one younger sibling that I was convinced that my parents had him for me. But we've always been really close. I would say we are the traditional loud, large family. Growing up, I thought every family had a band. When we would get together with cousins, there was always food, family, and music. We always played music. And I would ask kids at school, well, what instrument do you play, or what music does your family play? And they'd look at me like, what are you talking about? Like what? And I didn't realize until much later that that was a special thing. That was really a cool thing. My uncles would bring over their instruments and everybody would just hang out and play music and sing and have fun and laugh at each other. And that's what we did. Um, so I mean, growing up on a farm, there was, the fun stuff like that, the family stuff, but we also had a massive garden. We raised cows and chickens. Um, and there were 11 of us. There were chores to be done. My brothers milked the cows. We all had to get up and harvest stuff out of the garden early on Saturday morning. But we also had an abundance. We were not wealthy at all. In fact, we were, um, as I understood much later in life, again, I never knew we were poor because there was always an abundance of everything. We had the garden, we had um, lots of people around all the time. The neighbor kids wanted to come and be at our house because we were the family that had stuff going on. And there was always something to eat. There was always something to do and something to eat, lots of activity. So um, it wasn't until I was much older that I started to understand what makes me tick. I'm very rooted in family. I'm one of the most loyal people you will ever meet. I'm very instinctively protective to the people that I consider to be mine. And that's something that I definitely take away from my family. My father was an artist. Um, and so we always had activities that were really creative, where we'd talk about, how would you imagine this? How would you design this? How can we create this? If we didn't have something, we'd go make it. And my dad was always really good about that. So those kind of things, it's just, I thought every family was like that. You don't have any other frame of reference growing up. So that's just what you do. So all those things, I'll say I have taken with me into my adult years. Um, and those have always have served me well. Those have been really positive traits and things I'm very grateful for. I loved my childhood. It wasn't always wonderful. There were things that I recognized much later that were suppressive things going on. That of course, as a kid, you don't realize that. I grew up in a household with six brothers, very traditional, and definitely there was favoritism in terms of who got first dibs at what. My brothers were definitely favored with a lot of things, or like, that's not for you, you're a girl, that kind of stuff. I mean, and fast forward, knowing me now, anybody who says that to me now
Try
is going
saying
to
that
be
now.
kicked in the teeth, right?
Right.
So
With those
I mean,
fabulous boots you have on.
yeah, right, with the most fabulous boots you have ever seen.
And they're coming
um
for your teeth.
So, I mean, that was something that I noticed much later as we started to learn about sexism and feminism and the isms, things like that. Anything repressive, um, or things that would oppress a spirit. And I'm not talking man or woman, I'm just talking a spirit, a soul, right? Any of those things that would put the lid on somebody. Um, so growing up, whatever my brothers were doing, I was going to do it better. I was gonna run faster. I was gonna jump higher. I was gonna do whatever I could to win whatever the thing was, and or do it better, like get better grades in school, just be more driven. And I had to be smart about that too, because it's kind of like it was, I don't want to say it was already decided, but it was favored in that way, that it was just built for them, and we're talking, the 70s here, early
Yeah.
80s. So that's the
Yep.
time frame we're
Yep.
talking about. And at the same time, growing up, not only was it those pieces of feminism that we talk about, there was also bits of racism built in, because on the outside of our home and some on the inside, um, being a person of color, or having two languages at your disposal, there are other areas that somebody would want to put the lid on you, right? Like speak only English. This is, we speak English in this country, or in this school, or wherever we are. Um, and it was that way in our home. Our parents wanted us to speak only English. And so there was always some kind of underlying element of shame, of that I shouldn't be this, or I shouldn't do that. Like I was less because I was a girl, and then I was even less because I was a Hispanic girl. Um, Nobody ever said those words, right? But
Sure.
the forces around you, and just the nature of how the times were, those are messages that are you in bits and pieces,
Hmm.
um, that you hear those things constantly. So even to this day, if somebody speaks to me in Spanish, I will answer in English, because I have been taught that we answer in English. Sometimes I mean, it's in there, and I'll rattle stuff off as it suits me, but I still have that hesitation to this day. And I hate that. I hate that there's a part
Hmm.
of myself that I have been taught to be ashamed of.
Yeah.
Um, or even, dealing with family stuff now. Our dad passed away 14 years ago, I think now, and
Yeah.
we're getting ready to sell his property. And even just this weekend, I had a sibling telling me what the place of a girl is intended to be, that I'm supposed to be a helper. I'm not meant for leadership. And this is coming from a blood sibling. And so again, my instinct is just like, I am going to kick you in the teeth. Like, I just do not accept that. I don't accept that I am less in any of those avenues, and I never have been. And so that's when I say, if something is impressed upon my heart, the same way it was impressed upon yours, it's for me. It's not for somebody else to tell me that's not for you. That's not meant for you because you're less. There's no part of me that is less than. Um, I mean, I'm like anybody else. I have my own insecurities, and I battle with those, and, um,
Mhm.
motivate myself to do this, that, and the other. But I did decide at an early age, and I can't even tell you when, probably 8 or 10, somewhere around there, that these people don't know what the hell they're doing. These people don't know anything. Like, they just don't. They're muddling through
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I just kind of, I've, I would say I've always been strong-willed, but I would say I have a strong spirit on top of that. And so that's been a driving force behind some of these things. That's really been what has pulled my heart to healthcare. I've always been really orderly, and I tend to have a penchant to bring order where there's chaos. Um, Growing up, my dad used to say every dollar has a job to do. Um, and
I like
so
that.
when you look at, large organizations or big structures of things that kind of churn along, you can find avenues or areas of waste in there and make immediate improvements if you are tuned into that. If you're used to it and used to the status quo, you would never see it. But if you grew up poor and knew, hey, that's wasteful, we don't waste, those are the things that catch your eye, and you can immediately um, make remedies for that. So that's why I've always done really well in those roles, because I have I think the management piece just comes instinctively to me. I'm I'm used to a lot of moving parts around me, having a
Mhm.
big family, that's natural to me. That doesn't seem like chaos. That just seems the natural state of things, but I like to keep things orderly and predictable. And certainly the piece about serving other people and making sure that the next person has it better than you, or the next person isn't struggling or find a way to ease their way, that's something that I feel is very rooted in family as well. So
Mhm.
those kind of things have just come naturally to me. I have a degree in business, and that can apply to a lot of different things, but I've chosen to apply it in the healthcare setting, and that has definitely served me well. Um, I'm also a small business owner. I have a 12-piece salsa band, and we perform wherever anybody wants us to. I put on several events every year that I myself host, and then sometimes we're hired out for other things. I right now I've got stuff with the Spokane Jazz Orchestra in the works, as well as with the Expo 74 celebration that's coming up for this year. That's the 50-year anniversary.
Lots of stuff turning 50. Oh.
Yeah. And the thing that's so cool about that is, so when Expo 74 was here, my dad being an artist, he did, when Nixon was in town to give speeches and stuff, my dad did the art for the backgrounds and things like when Nixon was here. So, my brother Nick is very good at that fine art piece, but the cool thing that I'm able to bring to the celebration this year is the performing arts piece. So that we're trying to figure out dates and all those things and get the contract together and what have you, but that's in the works. And I'm really proud to be part of that history. I just kind of feel my dad on my shoulder with me, so
Aw,
that's really cool.
I love that.
um, yeah, so some really cool things I will say. When I was a kid and people ask you, what are you going to be when you grow up? I would not have said a healthcare administrator and a performing artist. I did never, I
Performing artist, maybe.
maybe I used to, oh my gosh, do you remember there was an album that Kenny Rogers and Anne Murray did way back? And I loved that album. I would stand on our fireplace and sing into the pokers. Um, I think it was "Oh Ruby" or something, the
Oh,
song.
well, that was definitely a Kenny Rogers
Is
song.
that the
Yeah.
era? Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
I loved that song, and
Yeah.
I would perform that on our fireplace.
Oh, yeah. I love
Maybe
that.
that was the beginning of it all. I don't know,
I
but
have a similar memory with a portable 8-track
oh, you
player
froze.
and Linda Ronstadt.
Oh yeah,
I said I
yeah,
have yeah. Yeah, dancing around with that
yes.
Linda
I
Ronstadt,
love Linda
silver
Ronstadt.
threads and golden
Yep,
needles.
she is amazing. So,
She is amazing.
um, the cool thing about that, though, I mean, and one of my friends pointed this out. Um, is through my work in healthcare. I do the work that I do now. It used to be operations, hiring people, trying to find providers, doing provider recruitment. Sometimes I would be in the midst of union grievances or, dealing with that stuff, doing payroll, managing the schedules, all that, all that kind of operational stuff that has to happen in healthcare. Now I'm focused more on health equity. And I love it because I don't have the busyness of all that work. I can focus on some things that are really close to people's hearts and really at part of the root causes of what causes people to receive care that is less than what we know that we can do. People of color have disparities and issues that are undeniable, and statistically we see those. And my job is to help take steps and help the organization understand and take the steps to close those disparities and bring more equality to the healthcare setting. So I love this work. One of my friends pointed out that the work that I do in health equity um, and the work that I do in music is both heavily steeped in bringing people together. Um, and that I had to kind of stop and think about that. It's like, yeah, I guess I do that. And it would make sense because that is when I feel the happiest, is when I'm around the people that I care about. Everybody's taken care of, everybody's got their job to do, but everybody is taken care of and healthy and happy. And that's when I feel the happiest, is when I can put those pieces in place and facilitate that. So I'll do that till the day I die. You know, if I feel like I have a good formula for that, that it's definitely working, and we've seen some success over the years, but certainly we've got room to grow. But that made total sense to me. Like a light went on, and it's like, yeah, I'm going to do this forever. I will be old and gray and be on stage with my walker, but I'll do this till the day I die, you know, if it makes
Yeah.
people happy. Um, because that is something that gives people a sense of belonging. Especially the folks who are, you know, Spokane is kind of an isolated place. It's not very cultural. We don't have a large population of people of color, but if I can help somebody feel or feel close to their home, that's everything to me. You know, I want people to feel welcome and supported, and I want people to feel a sense of belonging, because when you don't have that, that spirit piece is suppressed. You're surviving. You know, you're watching out for the next person who you know, you think they don't like you, they don't want you, or what have you. You know, speak a different language than you're used to, that kind of stuff. When somebody can feel a sense of belonging and just like a sigh of relief, um, you know, the same messages that are placed upon my heart, those people have the same messages being placed on their hearts. So
Mhm.
they need that room to thrive and that room to create. Um, and so just being able to create an avenue for that, or a sense of belonging for my community, is just so I get a lot out of that. It's really
Yeah.
fulfilling.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's so much power in just being seen and being heard, you
Mhm.
know, uh, and even better if there's action that can follow, you
Mhm.
know, with like what you're doing with your health equity work. Um, you know, yeah, we see the statistics, they're there, but
Mhm.
then now you're where the rubber meets the road, right? So you're actually researching and looking into ways to take action to close that
Yeah.
gap that I'd be willing to bet that a lot of people had no idea even existed, right?
Well, I mean,
Especially
the
people
George
that like, you
Floyd,
know, like me.
yeah. I mean, the George Floyd murder certainly brought a lot of that to people's attention. And at that point was when policies came into place that organizations are required to do this. But some of us, like organizations, like any tribal entity that serves the community with medical services, that's an entity that began because of the disparities that exist in the mainstream. So any, like say around here, your Mariman Health, the Native Project, those organizations that are run by Indigenous people for Indigenous people, you'll find that they don't turn anyone away. You know, they're there to serve the people who need it. Same thing across the state. When I worked over in the Seattle area for CMAR, I was across the whole west side of the state, and that was originally by Latinos for Latinos, but we didn't turn anyone away. Those organizations exist because of the disparities that exist in the mainstream. So now that I'm back working in the mainstream, but having had the experience of knowing what that can look like, when you really approach healthcare with an equity lens, that's really important. That's really powerful. And I cannot impress upon anybody the importance of that, of always
Yeah.
having that lens, and certainly um, having a background of cultural competence as well as lived experience, that, you know, that helps me in my work.
Do you find that there are any roadblocks thrown up in your work, or do you feel like this organization has this position that they hired you into and they want you to do this job? Do you find that those things ever, you know, is there ever a conflict there as far as like, yeah, we want you to do this job, but don't do it too well. Like, you know, I mean, I don't know if I'm saying this right.
I get what you're saying. Like the words
Have
and the
we
results don't always line
evolved
up.
as yeah, like have we kind of evolved as a society to where we can like actually see that there's a problem and try to fix the problem, Or are we like identifying that there's a problem and we feel like we should get a pat on the back for having identified it, but that's good enough and we're not going to do anything else? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Well, yeah, I get what you're saying. And I
now,
think,
but I know that that can't be true because they hired you and you would never allow that. They hired the wrong person if that's how they want it to
oh
happen.
boy, yeah.
But
I mean, I don't hesitate to use my voice when I need to, but
yes.
I will say it's definitely a positive thing that it's out in the open. We're talking about it. Everybody doesn't agree with it, and that's okay. Everybody doesn't have to agree with it in order for us to move forward. In the same way you would think about how issues of women's rights would be voted on by a bunch of men in a building far away, right?
Right.
By the same token, it's just that the subject matter has changed. It's people of
Right.
color, or it's the LGBTQIA community. Those issues are all a part of equity, health equity. So I will say we have a lot of work to do. There's no two ways about it. There are people who think that some of our neighbors shouldn't even be here. So why should we worry about them? Why should we worry about those statistics when they shouldn't be there? Well, they're human beings, they're people. That's why. And when one person is in a community and sick, that means it puts the whole community at risk. I think we just learned that with the pandemic, right? So
Yep.
those kinds of things, no, I don't think we need any pats on the back just yet. But what I will say, what I have seen in my work, especially on working for a large organization, is that it takes a lot to get all of the eyes on the prize. This work is fairly new in terms of the mainstream. So I would say, I mean, where I work, this has the hospital where I work, there's 10 hospitals total, but in this area, it's been about 5 years or so that the ownership has taken place in this region. So the leadership is still fairly new, and bringing these practices into place takes a long time to steer that ship, right?
Yeah.
There are some very genuinely good people at the helm who can see the effects of the disparities and genuinely want to do the right thing. That doesn't mean that, for example, I went through the whole HRC healthcare quality index survey across 10 hospitals, and I can't say that everybody in our organization is even tuned into what's going on. It might not, like somebody who works in IT or somebody who works in food services isn't gonna have the same vantage point, or that's not the work that they do every day. So they're not necessarily, it's not top of mind awareness. So one of the things that I have kind of taken upon myself is to create areas where it can be top of mind awareness. Health equity is something that in some cases we think, okay, we got to get through the stuff we got to do, and then we need to think about health equity like it's an afterthought. But really, it's something we need to think about. It needs to be driving the train from the very beginning. It needs to be part of our first thought of how are we going to care for patients. We have safety departments, we have quality departments, and we have the equity department. And all three of those things, you can't have one without the other two, right? You have to have quality, safety, and equity in everything that we do in healthcare. So that's in no way have we arrived, but we are on the right path with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Cool. I hope my question made sense there, but
I'd hope I gave you a
um,
decent answer and didn't just take up time
no,
talking.
no, that was great. Oh, of course. No, that was great. Okay, so let's circle back a little bit because I one thing that you just said that I thought I found it, well, you didn't just say it, you said it a while ago. I wrote it down. One thing that you had mentioned is that you were pretty young. You said you were like 8 or 9 years old, and you're looking around going, no one here knows what the hell they're doing. And I'm thinking, um, yeah, at 8 or 9 years old, for a child to have that sort of like knowledge or observation of the adults around them, like that couldn't have been necessarily a great thing to be that young. Like
Well,
everybody gets to a certain age and they're like, oh yeah, none of us know what we're doing. But I think typically that happens if you're closer to an adult than at 8 or 9. And I think that
mhm,
has, I bring that up because I feel like you and I sort of have that bond as well. Like, yeah, we got our farm girl, let's work hard, pull your
right.
big girl pants up, and it doesn't matter if you're a girl or boy, that fence, the cows are out. And so
Yep.
we got to deal with that. But also at a really, really young age, I think you and I both had to be somewhat independent. And I just, that struck me that that was kind of, I mean, my message is a little different than the message it feels like maybe that you got, which was none of these people know what they're doing, even though no doubt, that you were loved, but
Yeah.
there was still enough there that you were like, yeah. And my little message, just so that we're, being fair and as open here with me as you have been, my message at that really super, super young age, maybe even 5 or 6 years old, was I'm kind of on my own here. And like there are some things I'm just kind of surviving, and I'm not sure I can really trust anyone. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Like I'm kind of on my own. Um, I know my parents love me and care about me, but I still feel like I've kind of got to handle this myself. So like I said, I think that that's something that has a bond that's sort of been an unspoken bond with us. We've talked about some stuff
yeah.
we have that we
Mhm.
don't need to get into here. I don't intend to get into all that stuff on this podcast, but um, because that's for you and I, or
Fair.
our counselors. But trust me, that's happening a lot. Um, but anyway, I didn't want to let that go
Okay. I can
without
think
at
about that a
least
little bit.
circling back and just, you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, but I didn't want to leave that there because I think that's really something important for us as women. And I think that that's part of what's shaped who we are as the gritty, tenacious women that we are. Sometimes, well, yeah, sometimes we had to walk through some fire for some stuff when we were probably younger than we
Sure.
should have been having to do that. So,
Well, and those are formidable years.
yep,
I think
absolutely.
for me, it had a lot to do with, so my brother and I have had this discussion as well, my younger brother and myself. There were a lot of times where, we were told, oh, you little kids just go over there and sit there and be quiet. Stuff's going on and there's chaos. And sometimes the older kids were put in charge of the younger kids. And so we did. We would go sit at the side and just watch everybody. And we were quiet and we were very observant. And we saw everything going on. And we could see this person's lying to this person is being manipulative to get their way, this person's just having an all-out fit. We watched everything. We watched everything unfold. We saw the dynamics. And with 11 kids and two parents, that's 169 relationships going on under one roof at all times.
Yeah.
Okay. And so when you are observant of that and you just watch that, you get pretty good at picking out certain behavioral patterns. And I mean, I'm no therapist by any means, but I can pick out when somebody's trying to manipulate, and I will call that so fast. And that got me in trouble because, um, when I would call out somebody of authority within the household, that kind of got me pegged as being a troublemaker. But I still to this day, I swear I will call stuff out because it eats at me. And I could see the damage it was doing to my family. I could see when somebody is using, like just being loud to cover up the fact that they're being dishonest. And I can see that from a mile away, and I could see how detrimental it was, and I could see the damage it was causing. Um, and so even to this day, I will speak up about things like that. It will eat at me if I don't.
Mhm.
Um, so I won't say that I was ever in need in terms of like where my next meal was coming from. We always had plenty of that. I always had clothes on my back and a roof over my head, that kind of stuff. But um, I was constantly gaslit or what I understand to be gaslighting now. I was constantly told that, well, you don't know anything. You're wrong. That's not you, just go over there and sit down and be quiet, and
Mhm.
but you can't unsee those things. Um, and of course now there's nobody really telling me that now. They can certainly try, but that's not going to it just doesn't go anywhere. I'm not under the direction of people who would speak to me in that way.
Right.
Um, but still in my work and certainly in personal relationships, I do speak up when I see something like that happening. And it's not right to do to somebody just because it changes the course of their life. We have few moments on this earth. So if you're going to sit and lie to somebody so that they can make decisions for their life based on your lies, that's
Yeah.
really unhealthy, really toxic. So, um, that is something that's probably where that began, is at that young age when I would see stuff happening and be told, just go sit there and be quiet. It's like, okay, I will, but at some point I'm not going to be quiet. And
Mhm. But I see
yeah,
you.
yeah, I see it. And you're
Yeah.
not, that's the thing. Nobody gets away with anything.
Right.
Um, whether it's immediate or if you believe in karma, which I do, I've seen people think they're getting away with something, but if you really look at it, their life is a testament to their decision making and their mindset. So,
Right.
um, I try to push myself to do better.
Yeah. Yeah, you certainly do. Um, okay, so let's shift. What do you want to talk about next? The band some more?
Sure, we can talk
What?
about music.
Yeah.
Love it. So how did I get so lucky? I don't know, but I do love that I've got this thing in my back pocket. It is a heck of a side hustle. I'll say that. It has grown to be where, typically we will do maybe 5 events or so in a year's time, kind of space them out a little bit, that scarcity rule. But this year, especially since we came back from since we came back from COVID, we've pretty much sold out every performance. This year in particular, we have, where we were doing 5 in a year, I have 5 shows set up between now and 6 now, I think, between now and June. So the first half of the year, we're out of the gates. And I love that. I love that because it just means that the community is tapping in to some really wonderful energy. I know you've been to some of our events and you can just feel the
Oh
love.
yeah. Oh yeah.
It's really positive. I'm pretty quick to get rid of any elements that are negative or unsafe or toxic in any way. This started with my family, and I want it to always appeal to families. So I like to do shows that are all ages. Um, and so just it's something good and wholesome for the community that people can come and
Mhm.
have a good time. Bring the kids if you want, but also if you want it to be date night, that's always good too.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know there are at least 2 human beings, at least 2 children that have been born in Spokane as a result of our performances. So
Oh,
I
I
know one
mean,
one
it's
couple got
pretty
married.
spicy.
Yeah, it's spicy. Um, but I love that, and I love that people
Yeah.
feel comfortable bringing their families. I love it when somebody, um, the viejitos, the older folks, um, give in to the music, give in to the rhythm and tell us that, we make them feel like they're home. And I just love that. It's hard to
Yeah.
be away from home. And so music can take you back there. So,
Yeah.
um, I just love that music can do that. Music can bring people together. So for me, I want to amplify that in any way that serves the community. We have started to sponsor some nonprofits in our region. Anytime we have a performance, I'll say, like, this time around, Second Harvest Food Bank we're sponsoring them. And so, um, I ask anybody that is going to come to a performance, if you're a ticket holder, we're going to keep the doors open a couple hours longer so people can stay and dance to our playlist, and just bring like a food item so we can donate to the community. You know, it doesn't always have to be about money. There's a lot that we can do to leverage to serve the community. Because there's a lot of people suffering. And
Yeah.
that goes back to those disparities that we talked about.
Mhm.
There's why not use it to help somebody else, or, you know, help an organization that does so much to help other people. So just trying to
Absolutely.
use it to do good in the community.
Yeah. And it is good because once again, here you are bringing people together, you know,
It's
and people
fun.
from all like it's actually a pretty diverse group of people that
Yeah.
come to your shows too, you know. I mean, and then I love how you oftentimes you have like different instructors in there to do the lesson beforehand, you
I
know,
think that's
and so
important.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, you know, I feel like that's something that keeps people away. You know, people who are like, I don't know how to salsa dance. You
right,
know,
right,
or they're ashamed or whatever. It's just like there is no reason to be. Our instructors do a really good job of welcoming people in. If you want to learn the steps, that's the way to do it. Just come. It's
yeah.
a beginner's lesson every time, and that beginner's lesson is always just packed. Um, but you don't have to know how to do traditional salsa dancing. You can just get out there and bust a move any way you want. But
Yeah, that's kind of what I do because I've done the lessons every single time and I just don't feel like I've gotten any better. But I
you,
try and it's
I
fun. The
can.
lesson is fun, you know.
The person singing doesn't get to dance very much, and I am convinced that I am just the worst because I'm always up there like in between monitors and microphones and stuff. So like to dance with an actual person is like, what do I do with my hands?
Yeah.
Why
How
is
does that
somebody
go?
touching me? You know, I
Right.
got the rhythm.
Yeah.
I got the
Yeah.
steps. I got the rhythm. I know all the stops. I know the patterns. But just like the cues and stuff of dancing with a person is, I need help.
Yeah, it's hard to like follow somebody's lead too,
Yeah.
you
Yes.
know, because truly, I mean, if you're a good follower, if you're a good dancer, they don't have to be too obvious with the signals that are
Yes.
giving you. But no, with me, it's like, hey,
Yeah. Tell me.
go
Tell
that
me when
way.
something's coming.
That's what I need. I need like lights. I need,
Yeah.
like we're doing.
So yeah. That's one of my goals. I'm going to get better about that part. There's
Yeah.
no reason not to, considering I work so closely with all of these people who are really good at it. So I just need to get out there and do it.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah. Okay. So did you have this? What else you got? You got anything else there?
Um, I guess, you know, I talked about you know, kind of growing up and, you know, to a certain age, when once you leave home, a whole lot changes. And I will say, once I became a mother, that put a whole different paint job on the world to me. It didn't change anything in terms of scrappiness or all those things I already talked about, but I will say it amplified and scrutinized everything, because you know, here's these two little humans that are now relying on me. And it really put me to the test and put my feet to the fire in a lot of areas. And but I will say, of anything I've ever done, motherhood has been the most rewarding, the greatest adventure, and the highest honor. You know, I love, my kids are grown now. They're 30 and 27. And I love being a mom of grown kids. I feel like to some degree we did our growing up together in a lot of
Mhm.
ways, you know, because you don't know what again, you don't know what the hell you're doing. You're just muddling through.
Yeah.
You know, you do the best you can, and that's something that I'm so proud of them, but I'm also proud of us, our little family core, that we made it. You know, we went through our struggles, that's for sure, but um, nothing's easy as a single mom, but um, it wasn't just about me being scrappy. You know, my kids came through that period as well, and they are very level-headed young men. They're funny. You know, they have my sense of humor. They're you know, they like the
I
wacky
love that
stuff,
so
but
much.
they're very genuinely good people. And they also have that element of just fierce protection for the people that they love. You know, very loyal. And I think that's important, especially in today's day and age where people are shady. Um, I feel like there's a larger divide every year with that. Some people willing to be shady and other people who just fiercely reject that.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm just grateful to be on that side of it,
Yeah.
so that was a period of, I feel like I blinked my eyes, and when my kids, certainly when I was going through it, my divorce, there's a period of my kids' lives where I was totally just surviving as a mom. I worked two jobs and I was doing consulting work um on days off. And then that's around the time that I was starting music and performing professionally, and also raising two kids. And it was just you don't stop to think about, should I do this? You just get it done any way you can. It's not a
Yeah.
should. It's like, this is gonna come hell or high water. This is gonna happen. My kids aren't gonna go without. And so that period, I have to say, I have such little recollection of that. Um, and I hate that. I hate that that is just missing. Um, but the other parts, especially now that they're older and we talk about stuff that we remember, and it's like, oh yeah, I do remember that. And then we pull out pictures and, talk about things. So, um, especially now as I see them going into their adult lives, my oldest son just got married a couple of months ago. And, I feel like we're winning. I feel like my kids are winning at life. There's always room for growth, but they've got the pattern down, and that they get the gist of right from wrong, and they're going for it. They're both very driven, but not so driven that they don't stop to smell the roses. They like to cut up and have a good time, just like mom, but um,
Mhm.
they've got it figured out.
Yeah. 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 You're definitely a stop and smell the roses kind of person now, but I get that. I mean, I went through that with my son as well,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and I've said that too about mine. Like, I feel like we kind of grew up together because I was pretty young when I had him,
Yeah.
not insanely young, but pretty
Yeah.
young.
And you don't know
Barely
what you don't
21.
know.
Yeah. And then they put this kid in my arms, this little 6 pounds, and I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like, now what? That's a whole new realization. And it's a whole level of fierceness that I never knew existed. It's a whole
Yeah.
just different, it's a different kind of love that you have for
Yeah.
your kids than you have for anything else. I've never experienced that kind of love for anyone else where, you know, like it doesn't matter. I will kill you if you mess
Yeah.
with my
Right.
kid.
Try me.
Like, that's a
Try
mama bear,
it.
absolutely mama
Yes.
bear thing. Like, do not even. Yeah. Yep. Yeah,
Oh,
for sure.
so there's just, when you're saying like, tell me, I think you said something about tell me your story. That's where I feel like there's so many different stories. There's so many versions of who I am, between in my career and my children, my role as a mother, my role as a business owner, my role as a performer. There's a whole lot of layers.
Right.
I don't feel like I've ever been just one thing. um I have a lot of varied interests. I like to be good at different things. I want to be good at more than one thing. uh,
Hmm.
Even if I'm doing something terrible, I do it the best level of terrible.
Yeah.
Oh, did I tell you I hit a curb recently? Oh my
No.
gosh, I hit a curb and I can't. Okay, yes, I popped the tire and bent the
Oh,
rim
oh wow.
and broke the axle and did something else, something. It ended up being like $12,000 of work on my car.
Oh
So,
my gosh.
yeah, thank goodness I only had to pay my deductible. And I was just thinking, man, when I do something, I do it 100%.
Yes.
So, good
Full
and
steam
bad,
ahead.
right?
Uh,
But I feel like that keeps life interesting, and it doesn't hurt to have a couple side hustles.
yeah,
Things
right.
can flow, and I will
Mhm.
say, it's music does a lot for me. My career does a lot for me and music does a lot for me. Neither one of those things can touch what motherhood has done for me and
Mhm.
continues to do for me. So
Yeah.
um that kind of just puts it in perspective.
For sure. Yeah, I was talking to somebody about this once before too, and you alluded to it right there. Thinking like I think back about who I was and how I was, at just different periods of my life. And
Mhm.
sometimes I look back and I go, gosh, I cannot, it's hard for me to believe that that was me, you
Yeah,
know? Yeah,
right.
like I just can't believe that I was that person. Like that was a pretty brave thing to do. I can't believe I actually did that, and then I look back and I go, no, yeah, I can believe that I did. you know, like I'm different, but I'm still me kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And, I can totally see that too with you. Like,
Mhm. The person, you're still the same person underneath, but the person that you are now has developed so many different layers of experience and
hmm
understanding. And that's good. It's kind of like you become the person you were always intended to. All those things you go through are like an obstacle course that give you end up with the strength that you were intended to have
hmm
and the skills or whatever.
yeah.
So I think that's a good thing. I'm definitely in a happy place. I'm content with where my life has gone. I in no way am I content to just kind of rest and let it happen. I'm still going after the things that I want. And if I get a new idea that's impressed upon my heart, then I go after it. I don't listen to people tell me I can't or I shouldn't. I'll at least try it several different ways.
I think at our age too,
Figure
we've
it out.
I think we've sort of eliminated the people in our lives that would say that to us.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I just don't have a lot of people around me that if I said, oh, I want to do this or I want to do that or thinking about this or whatever,
Mhm.
that they would just say, no, I think that's,
Yeah, or speak fear into your plans.
right, right.
That was a
Yeah.
big one for me. I had to let a couple of really close friendships go. That was difficult and painful, but then once I look back on it, um, one more than the other is just the immediate notion to try to speak fear into my plans. And it wasn't so much that they were trying to protect me from something that might happen or might not happen. It was just that ultimately they didn't want me to hit that any level of achievement. They liked me to be safe where I was and there and exist for them. Um,
hmm
but that's problematic because it's just that's not my place in life. And I feel like the friends who are still with me, most of my friends I've known for decades and decades and decades now.
Yeah.
Those are the folks that are truly in my corner, and are like, well, why haven't you done this already? What's holding you back? Why aren't you doing this? Get after it, So
Yeah.
I think that those are the friends that are so valuable because they know what you're capable of doing, and rather than trying to put a lid on you, they're trying to push you forward and light a fire under you. That's or keep the fire going that you light for yourself. Those are the friends that are so valuable, at least have been for me. So it takes some time to differentiate those people, but the cutoff is not fun, but it's so essential.
hmm Yeah. Yeah. I've really kind of learned that too. You just kind of can do some pruning here and there. And I've also learned that like that's okay. I don't owe it to anyone to let them have access to me and let them rain on any of my parade or
Yeah.
burst any of my bubbles.
Be gone.
I don't care if it's family. I don't care if it's a friend I've had since I was 2 years old. I mean, I care, don't get me wrong. I care. It's painful and it's hard and it does hurt. But at the same time, like I feel like I've grown so much, um, and been able to just, accomplish things and change things and, live my life in a way that I truly want to live it. That's really authentic to who I am as a
Yeah.
human and as a mom and as a horsewoman and all those things. And I mean, and it's been 50 years in the making,
Yeah,
you
you
know,
become more in command of yourself and
yeah.
of life.
And I haven't always been like you. I haven't always, we're a lot alike more now, but I haven't always been that person that would do that. I've been the people pleaser and I've been,
Oh, I've been that.
um,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah,
some, I mean, keep in mind when you have nine older siblings, sometimes that's a source of survival.
right,
You gotta be a
right.
people pleaser
Oh,
sometimes.
absolutely. Yeah. I've a,
And
like we've talked this, I think there's kind of a buzz phrase going around now called self-abandonment, right? And
yeah,
like we never
yes,
really knew what gaslighting was, but we just knew that happened to us. And now that now it's got a name. Now we have the vocabulary for it. And so it's kind of that same thing. And I look back and I'm like, gosh, I've often wondered, um, what my life would have been like had I not done this or done that, or had I spoke up for myself more that this at this time or that time or the other. And none of that matters.
yeah,
Honestly, none of that matters because I'm really in a really great right now where I am.
good.
Um,
I hate that
but
it's taken 50 years to get us here, though. I wish,
yeah,
people always say, I wish I knew then what I know now.
yeah,
And I so believe that. Like it's so, I mean, I know this month is my big 5-0, and I hear the words coming out of my mouth, and I just think, how is that even possible? I don't feel like it. Um, there's so many things that I would love to go back and tell myself. And so I just do. Like when I think of those moments, I just tell myself as if I'm there telling myself, like as if some way speaking it into the universe makes it so. But
yeah,
I started doing that because I didn't have somebody to tell me. Mostly the people telling me were the ones saying, no, don't bother with that or don't do that. So now I just say it out loud. I take that upon myself to be
yeah,
the auntie that I needed at that time or whatever.
yeah.
Um,
I love that because I was actually going to ask you, it was going to ask you that exact thing. I was going to say, if you could pick like the 20-year-old Jennifer or the 16-year-old Jennifer or the 32-year-old Jennifer or the whatever age Jennifer, if you had, if you could go back and like just kind of put your arm around her and tell her something, first of all, like who would that be? Like who were you at the time? And then what would you tell yourself? This could be, this might take us 6 hours. We could be here till 10 o'clock tonight. But you
right?
know but I'm just curious about that because it's funny that the conversation went that way because I was going to ask you that.
Oh boy. Like if I could tell myself,
Yeah, if you could give yourself some advice and you get to pick the stage of Jennifer you're given the advice to, what
okay,
would the
well,
advice be?
I will say now, as a grown ass woman, the times in my life when I allow whatever my fire is, when I allow my fire to come out of me and not hold back in any way, um, those moments tend to be the most fruitful or the most meaningful. Meaning that if I have this thing impressed upon my heart and I am the vehicle that's going to take it to where it needs to go, those moments, I don't know how to explain it. Like those seem to end the best. And I'm not talking anger or,
Right,
things like that. I'm talking about, that just a really positive energy that is me, the ball of fire, whatever that is. So I guess if I were to be speaking to myself at 20, 22, however, that age, my second son was born at 22, so let's say that I would tell myself to light this bitch up. I I would be like,
yes.
don't hold back. Um, And I would tell that to any young woman. And I'm not saying be reckless. That's not what I'm saying. But you know the difference when you're doing something that you know to be reckless, as opposed to when you are suppressing yourself.
Hmm.
Um, Light it up. Let her rip.
Yeah. Oh, I got chills.
Let
I might have to make that like a banner or something. Light
her
this
rip,
bitch up.
sis.
Let her rip, sis. Light this bitch up.
Yeah, I like that. So yeah,
Awesome.
I wish I had figured that out so much sooner in life.
Yeah.
And I
I
don't
wish
know.
I had figured that out when my back didn't hurt so bad.
Right? I don't know. Somebody who knows me might hear that and be like, "Oh dear God, more." Like, but I don't know. I just know that there were so many times where I shrunk myself to help other people feel comfortable or better, and that just does not happen anymore. That we're done with that.
Yeah.
That's over.
Yeah.
That era
Good.
has ended. That's over.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good. That's pretty inspirational too, I have to say. Who knows gonna hear who know let me just words are hard right now. you know who knows who's gonna hear that
Yeah.
from you, and and you just never know,
Well, it'll be
speaking
a
that sort of
catalyst for
stuff.
some people. It'll be a
Exactly.
catalyst for some people, but somebody who is unhealed could take total offense to that and see it a totally different way, and that's
Yeah.
okay. I'm not here for them. They have their own path. Like,
Yeah.
more power to you. But
Yeah.
I just feel like anytime we can encourage people to let that piece of their spirit out, because that's unique to each one of us.
Right.
We aren't bodies roaming around, that we have a spirit. We are spirits and we have a body. The body is the vehicle that takes us around. But the spirit is something that is so precious and unique to each of us, that I think the more that we can encourage that, to come out of people, the better we are going to be as a community, as a society, as families, as individuals. Um,
Absolutely.
that's where the good stuff happens. That's where the magic unfolds.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, my dear friend, I
Did you
love
learn
this
anything
so
new about
much.
me today?
Um, no, actually, I feel like I kind of knew all that
Yeah.
already. Maybe some little details that I wasn't, you know, maybe didn't quite knew, but no, I feel like you let that out, you are who you are, and there's no guessing,
Yeah, I
which is
feel like
one thing I really admire about you. One of
thank
the
you.
many things I really admire about
You'll
you.
know where you stand with me, right?
Absolutely.
Not a secret.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. I know you got to get going to your
I'm honored to be a part of
rehearsal.
it. I love that you're doing
Oh,
this. So please let me know how I can help in any way.
oh, thank you so much. And we'll see you on February 24th, right?
You know it.
Hey, we're gonna get all sparkly. Can't
Woohoo.
wait.
Can't wait.
All right, honey. Well, you have a great night.
Right.
I'm
Thanks,
gonna
darling.
stop the recording here and hang tight though.
Okay.